Hello, welcome to Muse Mode episode 4. In this week, we're going to be talking about the major lessons that I learned in 2024. And it's basically around worthiness, trusting myself, and also redefining what success looks like and feels like to me. All these lessons from this year are coming straight from my inner work journal. And I basically went through and read my journal again from this year. And all of the major lessons, the doubts, the worries, the fears, the limiting beliefs that I had this year are what I'm going to talk about today and how I overcame them and how they have made me more powerful. And I'm really excited to go into 2025 with new energy. One thing that I will just add now, and I'm going to talk about this in an upcoming video where I talk about setting your intentions for the new year, mood board, vision board, all that jazz. But I did not have a theme for 2024. I really just left it open because for the last 5 years before that, I always would have a theme that I would define. I'd have a vision board. I'd have all these things, and I would really set the intention of what I wanted to get out of the year. But then I said this past year, I was like, let's just see what happens if I just let God decide what the theme is going to be. And I just lean into my passions and my desires fully and just let the experiences and the lessons unfold in what need to based off of what I'm saying that I want. So the first thing that came up was worthiness. And this is something that I have talked about a lot. And I even have done another video or two on worthiness. But I realized that I was really tired at the beginning of this year. I felt like I was on a hamster wheel and I was never getting off of it. I was like, oh, there's always something that needs to be better. There's always something that needs to be improved. I need to do better, be better. Like it just was never ending. I never felt like I was good enough, that there was still always more work to do. And I realized that there is a difference between self-worth and self-confidence. And if you want more on this, you can definitely go look at the video, which I will link here if I remember. But there's a difference between self-worth and self-confidence. Self-confidence is what comes from the accolades. That's what comes from the things that you get out of what you do. But the self-worth is inherent. It is intrinsic. It is something that we all have no matter what we do. We are worthy just because we exist. We are human beings. So just by being, we are worthy of the things that we say that we want. And like I said, I was on this never ending wheel and I was always taking action from a place of guilt or shame and not enoughness. I was always trying to do more to be worthy. I was always trying to do more to be good enough for the things that I said that I wanted. But if that's the case, if that's the mindset, you're never going to get past that. So I was trying to self-improve my way to worthiness, which is impossible because we are never going to be self-improved enough. We are never going to be perfect. We are humans. We are here having a human experience. So we are meant to exist. We are meant to make mistakes. We are meant to learn lessons. We are meant to be beginners. And just by existing, we are worthy of having those experiences by not being a pro at something, by not having the confidence right off the bat because we've never done it before, and still doing it anyway because it's fun and we feel like it or we want to. The fun is in the journey. It's not in the final goal. Like that final goal, you're only going to have so many of those moments when you hit that goal or when you finally experience that thing. But how was the journey all the way to getting to experience that one thing? If you want 1 million subscribers on YouTube, okay, when you hit that million goal, it's going to feel amazing. But what was that journey like all the way getting to 1 million? Did you feel unworthy? Did you feel like shit? Did you fight yourself every day? Were you beating yourself up all the time? Were you always stressed? It's going to make that goal feel a little less sweet. I experienced this when I graduated from college. I had got 2 degrees in engineering, and the whole time while I was in college, I'm like, once I graduate, everything's gonna be great. I'm gonna feel amazing. Once I walk across that stage, like I'm gonna be so happy. Yes, because college was miserable for me because I wasn't really passionate about engineering. I just did it. And so when I did walk across that stage, when I was sitting at graduation, I wanted to be anywhere but there. I was like, oh yeah, thank God, I'm glad it's over. But I had no like real joy, no real like everybody says, like, you should be so proud, you should be so happy. And I was like, I don't really care. And so after that, I really learned to appreciate the journey because I spent 4.5 years miserable and not really enjoying my college experience. to get to that end, that culmination. And it was just like, bloop. And another thing in relation to worthiness that I was struggling with was rejection and failure. I felt like that if I was rejected, it meant that I wasn't whatever I was trying to do. And that's not what that means. Rejection doesn't mean that you are less worthy. It just means that that specific thing is not aligned for you. It's not of your highest good. It's not for your highest good. And if you do go through with it anyway, it probably wouldn't be a good experience because it was never a fit. And in working through that of feeling like rejection meant something about me personally and realizing that it doesn't mean I'm less worthy because somebody said no. It allowed me to really appreciate when I would be embraced where I was truly meant to be. One of the examples that I wrote in my journal about this was that if I was looking at a luxury hijab brand and I was like, oh my God, like, and I messaged them like, hey y'all, I would love to work with y'all. And they were like, no girl, we don't really think you're a fit. It doesn't mean that I'm not a luxurious person, but there's another aspect that doesn't really align with who I am. I don't wear a hijab. So why would that be aligned with me? It doesn't say anything that I'm not a luxurious girl. It doesn't mean I'm not an expensive girl. I don't like nice things because a luxury hijab brand told me they didn't want to work with me. I'm not aligned. That doesn't align with me. And so really thinking about how sometimes you don't see how it's not aligned, but the other party does, or God sees how it's not aligned. And so it doesn't work out. And that's always really done for our own benefit. Next thing that I learned this year, redefining success. Ooh, child, this was a really tough one because I was a perfectionist, and I was somebody that was always seen as successful in school and successful basically with pretty much everything that I did. And when you think about it, what is success really? What does success really mean? I'm actually going to read from my journal what I said about success. I actually just got a new and expanded definition of success, and that is that success is being obedient to your heart, yourself, and your God, whatever that looks like. Success is doing the things you set out to do, period. Not the reception or accolades, but just doing what you said you were going to do. I don't think I allow myself to feel successful enough or for long enough. I do something and then it's immediately on to the next like it was a blip or nothing. I don't allow my successes to mean much until they have to mean much and to prove something to others. Then I just whip it out of my back pocket like blow. And I'm going to tell you guys the exact story with how I came to this whole realization of this whole section about redefining success and understanding what success means to me and imposter syndrome. So I launched an affirmation deck and I applied to be a vendor at an event in New York. And when I applied, I was like, oh my God, like this is a really prestigious event. Like this is a really cool event. Like a lot of really cool girls are there, luxurious, expensive, like just the coolest of the cool, the talented of the most talented women go to this event. And like, I'm applying to be a vendor. I don't know if I'm going to be accepted. But of course, I manifested being a vendor. And we're going to talk about manifestation later. But I was like, okay, I'm manifesting this. I'm going to be selected. So then I get the email that says that I am selected to be a vendor. And I immediately was like, oh, I guess this wasn't that hard to get into. I guess they letting anybody have a table here. I guess anybody could be a vendor. They ain't got no requirements. And so I basically downplayed what the event was once I realized that I got accepted. And I didn't realize this until I got home, and I'm going to tell you why. So I'll just tell the whole story. So we get to the event. It goes well. I have a great time. I'm standing in line to meet the girl who put this event on. So we get up there and she's like, oh my gosh, yes, I remember your booth. You know, we were debating whether we were going to, choose you. And we really thought you would bring something different. And so I'm glad it was successful. You had a good time, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, thank you so much. And I walk away with my best friend and I'm like, oh my God. I was like, she really like selected me. Like I was like hand chosen. And my best friend says, yeah, girl, there was literally a girl standing in front of us in the line because I had walked away. And she was telling my best friend that she didn't get selected to be a vendor and she had a business. So like They were selective of the process, but I just was selected. And for some reason, to me, before that moment, I was like, oh my God, why did you think just because you were chosen that it meant that it wasn't that prestigious of an opportunity? That's imposter syndrome. And the only time you want to big up your accomplishments or what you get is when you're trying to be that girl. Let other people know that you're that girl. No, no, no. You're always that girl. And every opportunity that comes to you is an opportunity of quality and an aligned experience and something prestigious because it's you. And you are all of those things. But I had that disconnect because of imposter syndrome that it didn't really apply to me. That's why I think it's really important for us to travel and to have experiences outside of our hometown. Because every time I travel, I learn so much about myself. I have so many beliefs that are shattered, so many worries, doubts, and fears that come up, and I'm able to transmute because I put myself in different positions. Sometimes when we're in our same routine, it's hard for us to learn these lessons and to experience things that would challenge our current set of beliefs. So I encourage everybody. That's another thing I guess I would just add to this 2024 Wrapped is don't be afraid to go travel. Don't be afraid to go out and explore, even if it's just to a little city 30 minutes away, like whatever. Put yourself in situations that are different than your daily routine and different experiences so you can realize where you are limiting yourself and your mindset is limited. So, in summary, for success, what I would say that I learned about success is that success is doing what you set out to do. It is being obedient and disciplined with the things that you are supposed to be doing. And no, I'm not talking about your 9 to 5. Even though maybe that is a part of it, but it's like whatever you're called to do, whatever God told you to do, whatever your heart tells you to do. I'm talking about your passions, that you are doing them to the best of your ability, however you can do them in that moment where you are currently. It's not about the accolades. It's not about winning an award. It's not about being invited to this event. It's about, are you showing up every day in the way that you know that you are supposed to? That is success. Is what you're doing when you think nobody is watching. And it's not because we even care that they aren't watching, but that's just what it is. And then in regards to imposter syndrome, I would diminish experiences in order to protect myself from feeling attached to the outcome. And so when I would downplay things because I got like, oh, it's not that serious, but it is that serious. And I don't have to downplay my experiences in order to also stay a bit detached to the outcome of things. I can recognize things as prestigious and nice and elevated without having to downplay them. The way I broke these sections up is kind of random. So this section, I'm going to talk about collaboration, my fears around that, and also trusting myself. So first I want to read what I wrote about my fear of not being good enough. The stories I tell myself about my abilities is that I'm capable of anything. The issue, I think, lies in the enoughness. Yes, I'm able, but is it good enough? Is it right enough? I'm talented, but I question, is it enough talent? I think these stories originated from every experience where it wasn't enough. I wasn't enough of something, or someone else wasn't enough of something, especially as a creative. A lot of people can sing, but is it good enough for a record deal? Is it good enough to be an icon? Is it good enough to go viral? We all have gifts, but is it enough of it to be successful with it and receive accolades and, more importantly, money? But thinking back to my new definition of success, it doesn't matter if your ability is enough. It's did you/are you obedient with your abilities? Do you finish what you start with your abilities? In order to believe in your abilities, you have to build consistency and trust with yourself, to have confidence in your abilities and not discount anything. Don't discount your abilities. Treat your gifts like you are the best in the world at them, like a pro, then nurture them like a pro would. You have to realize that you are the only person handing out certifications of enoughness for you. And I was always worried about being enough, but it doesn't matter about being enough. That's not the key. That's not the major key here. It's just about doing it to the best of your ability in that moment. That's what it's about. And through repetition, you will have that confidence that will make you shine more in whatever it is. You're already enough. You're already worthy of it. But you just have to do it. It's like if you had a toddler and the toddler was pretty good at banging on the keys. You're like, maybe that kid could play the piano. You wouldn't say he's not good enough to be a piano player. He's a toddler. he can be good enough by nurturing the gifts that you see in him, by nurturing what is already there. That is how you become more confident and more experienced in whatever that thing is. You're already enough. The toddler is already good enough to be the piano player. They just need more experience. And so that's the way I've been approaching things with myself. It's not about being good enough. I am good enough. I just need more reps. Okay, the next thing is creative collaboration and trusting other people. And this came up back in January. I'm kind of liking reading these things a little bit. That wasn't what I intended, but I'm liking it. Okay, I'm just going to read it and we'll see if I like it. If not, I'll cut it. Next is my reluctance to collaborate and always wanting to be a lone wolf with business stuff in general. I think I'm cautious with involving other people into money moves is because I think I've seen too many people not follow through on their word or not be about their business. Money is definitely something I feel like growing up, it wasn't something you put into the hands of others. I also think it's because I don't want others to be reliant on me. I don't want to have to be a woman I don't want to have to be a woman of my word. Wow. Honestly, after committing to engineering school, then my full-time job, it just makes me really reluctant to commit to anything since then as it relates to making money, especially. Like, I want to be able to quit or stop doing something if it doesn't serve me. I don't want to ever feel trapped again. People always let me down. And sorry, my handwriting slants. And for some reason, it's easier to be able to let myself down. Well, I guess it actually makes sense because I'm the only motherfucker I can control. Anytime you bring others in, there's a level of uncertainty, unpredictability, differing values, motivation, and techniques. I feel like a lot of people just don't want what I want. They have their own agendas and purpose, and sometimes that could leave me fucked. I don't feel like people kept their word or could be trusted. There was a lot hidden from me. I also felt like I got support of a certain kind, but none of another. I had to truly believe I was limitless first. This is new, unexplored territory for me, but I don't have to do it alone. And honestly, I fucking haven't been. It just feels so heavy sometimes because people don't get it. And if you don't get it, I don't want to try to even get you. I have to give people a chance though. And then I wrote the new story, which was that I can trust people. It is safe to collaborate with others. People always show up for me when I need them. I have no problem doing the things I say I'm going to do. Because one thing that came up in this was a belief that people couldn't be trusted. They couldn't be relied upon based off of my experiences in my childhood. Two was that I didn't even really want to be a woman of my word. I wanted to be able to back out of things when I didn't feel like doing them. And then realizing that that was just a story in my mind. I was just focusing on the parts that were bad, but didn't realize. And really, it's just remember because it's a loop. In the back of my mind, I do know that people have supported me, but you kind of forget when you get into those loops. That's why they call them a spiral. But that people were there for me, and I have been able to rely on others. And because I decided to shift this was back in January, and I did a video actually about creative community, which I'll post over here. I worked with so many amazing people this year. Like I did a series with Visit Detroit and worked with this videographer, Quentin. We did some amazing content for People Mover, for Q Line. Then I linked up with some other content creators in Detroit and we hosted an event at Coach, which Coach was on my vision board movie for 2024. And I didn't know that it was going to be with all four of them. And so there was a lot of things that I was able to open myself up to this year because I decided to embrace collaboration of all sorts and trust that people can be relied on, because I have had experiences where I was able to rely on others. And because of that, I've only honestly had good collaborations for the most part this year. Everybody I worked with was reliable, was on their stuff, and it was always productive. And we ended up creating amazing things. All right, next part. Manifestation is a tool, not a crutch. Now I'm going to read this little section directly from my journal. I think that I was using manifestation as a crutch a bit. I didn't believe in my intrinsic ability, and so I looked to an external force to give me what I wanted rather than rely on my own intrinsic worth. Technically, it's still looking for validation or confirmation outside of myself. I think it's still okay to manifest, but it can't be the crutch because I didn't think I'm enough on my own. Manifestation needs to be used as a way to set the intention of what I want, not to get what I want when I didn't deserve it or wasn't worthy of it or thought I wasn't worthy of it. Manifestation shouldn't be done out of lack or fear of my own capabilities. I also think the belief in the manifestation needs to be just as strong as the belief in my own capabilities. I'm not trying to take over or take a bunch of action, but I am coming into the manifestation with the right mindset that I'm talented and capable, and manifestation isn't a Hail Mary. It's just deciding what I want and resting until it's time to take action. It feels like manifesting is a safer thing to believe in, but both are me. I have to trust the physical part of me, body, skill, mind, action, and the spiritual side of me, intuition, inspired action, manifestations, faith, etc. If both are strong, I'll have way less resistance. If I trusted myself as much as I trust in the power of manifestation, I wouldn't be here. I'd be taking even more risks than I do now. I wouldn't stress as much because I'd know that I'm good on both sides. And this one really came to me as a result of that same event because I was manifesting being chosen because I didn't think that I was really good enough. And I was manifesting it so hard. I'm like, I'm going to be chosen. I want to be chosen. I'm going to be chosen. I'm going to be chosen. But in order to manifest what I did know is like, you have to believe that you are worthy of it. And I believed I was worthy of it, but I only believed I was worthy of it to the extent to manifest the thing, if that makes sense. And it's like something you have to experience, I think, to really get. But I only believed in the manifestation and believed in my worthiness of it because I wanted to call in the manifestation. I looked at it as like an ingredient to a recipe or to a spell. Like I was like, oh, all right, we need a dash of worthiness. We need a dash of knowing that you got it. And it wasn't because I really believed it. It was because I was like, all right, this is a part of the routine. I still called in the experience, but I still was able to see the lesson in you were trying to manifest it so hard instead of just believing that you were worthy and just saying one sentence. And I think sometimes people do need those long drawn out rituals for their manifestations, write it a million times, all that jazz. But I think as you get more embodied in worthiness and knowing that you are worthy because you exist, then you just don't need to do as much. And at the end of the day, all of that stuff I believe, is permission slips. You say, you gotta turn around 2 times and you gotta put a bay leaf outside the door and then you gotta stomp on it and you gotta turn it to the left and to the right and do a little shimmy and then your manifestation will come. And sometimes people need that because they need that ritual to clear their mind, right? And really believe and be that permission slip. But I think when you're more embodied and just knowing that you are worthy of it because you said so, because you are, then you don't need as much of that stuff. And I don't see manifestation as this big thing anymore. It's not a Hail Mary, like I said. It's simply deciding what I want to do and then taking the aligned action when I'm called to and resting. It's a tool. It's not a magical force, even though you could see it as that. But for me, I want to see it more as a tool. It's more interesting in myself because I am the magician, tarot, right? I am the magician. Okay, this last one was a new addition, but it really tweaked something in my brain when I heard it. And that is that you don't have an issue with consistency. You're just consistent with your bad habits. And I heard this from Layla Hermosi. I just started watching her like the last few months. I don't watch too much of her because I think she's a little more masculine. And I mean masculine in the sense that she's very much like let's go. And I'm a little more feminine. Like I like to be a little more flowy and more spiritual, I think, in my approach. But I still think that she gives me a little bit of that good masculine balance when I need it, when I need to hear that. And when she said that, it like just completely shifted my head because it made me realize that there's only one step to being consistent with good habits. And it's not 2 steps because at first I'm thinking like, I'm not as consistent as I'd like to be. No, you don't have a consistency problem. You already are consistent. You're just consistent with bad habits. So stop worrying about if you are a consistent person. We're all consistent. You're consistent. It's just deciding what are you going to be consistent about. And it also made it a little more neutral to me because it kind of felt like before it's like, oh, being consistent with good things is harder than just doing what I want. But no, you already are being consistent. It's like, you can make that a habit. And there are a lot of things, a lot of habits, good habits that I started in high school. Like I started cleaning up my diet when I was in high school, and those habits have stuck with me. They're not hard for me to do. It's not like this difficult thing. I'm consistent with them. So it's like just continuing to take that same mindset into more things that I want to be better at or have better habits with. So you're not inconsistent, babe. You're just consistent with the wrong things. And I don't know. Like I said, that was just a sigh of relief to me. I was like, "Whew, okay, great. Check, consistent, done." And this is the last section, and that is decide who you want to be and then live like that person every single day. I'm going to be doing a more detailed video about this because this kind of goes into my concept, my series that I've been doing on TikTok, and I've been talking about a bit in other places, but about curating your life. But every single aspect of your life, you need to think about it how that version of you that you want to be would think about it. So taking me as an example of who I want to be, I have always said this, that I wanted to be a woman that has her own businesses. They're fun, they're cute. I show up when I want to. I go to Pilates midday. I go to lunch or coffee with friends during the week or whatever. Like I don't work a 9 to 5. I have a stunning, banging body. I have a chef. I have a personal trainer, or I go to workout classes, and I have a hubby and eventually kids. So that is who did I say the millionaire? If not, millionaire as well, like wealthy, basically, financially free. And so everything I do, I try to think about it through that lens. Who is she? What does she do? And that's how we get closer to bringing that into our reality. If you have heard about the timeline concept, like that is what helps you bring you onto that timeline of that version of you who already is living that life. So like I said, who are they? What do they do every day? What does their room look like? What does their house look like? What does their car look like? What does their bathroom look like? What does their workout routine look like? What does their meals look like? What does their weekends look like? What do they do in their free time? Where do they shop at? And then do all of those things to the best of your ability right now. A big one for me this year was my car. So everybody who knows me closely knows that I am calling in a Porsche Cayenne. That is my dream car. That is the car that I want. But people who also know me know that my car was so junky, and I would have at least 50 water bottles in there at all times. And I didn't really feel like good when I got in my car. I was like, move. Every time somebody would come and get in my car, like I would literally have to move stuff every single time. And I was thinking one day, this was like back in August, I was like, what would the version of me, how would she be treating her Porsche Cayenne? What would she be doing? And I was like, well, she wouldn't have all them damn water bottles in the car. And it would be a lot tidier. Not saying you would be spotless. Like when we think about that version of us, it doesn't mean they have to be perfect, but she wouldn't have all this junk in her car. She wouldn't be slightly embarrassed every time somebody says they need a ride. And it's like, oh, okay. So I deep cleaned my car, and I committed to being the kind of person that does not have a bunch of water bottles in the car, does not have a bunch of stuff in the car. I cleaned it out, and somebody actually got into my car right after I had cleaned it. I detailed it myself. They said, wow, this is like riding in a luxury car. It's like riding in a Porsche. And I just laughed because that's exactly what I wanted it to feel like. I wanted to feel like now, every time I get into my little Ford Escape, I feel like I'm riding in luxury because I treat my car with respect and with love, and I take care of her. I get her oil change, okay? Get her some new winter tires. I live in Michigan. But doing all those things so that my car does feel like luxury, taking her to the car wash, making sure she's clean, it makes me feel good, and it makes me already feel like I am riding in the car that I say that I want. And for a while after I cleaned her out, and somebody would be like, oh, like I need a ride or whatever, they would get in my car, and I immediately would look to the right of the seat to clean it off, because usually there would be a ton of water bottles there and on the floor. And every time I look over there now, I don't do it much anymore now because it's pretty much always clean, but I would laugh because I was like, oh, there's nothing over this, right? I'm a new person. And it's subtle shifts like that that take you to that next level. And then another example I would say is I recently was starting to get to know somebody, and a lot of things they were asking me, and I was like, oh no, I don't do that. I can't remember exactly specifically like what they would be asking me. The one thing I do remember us talking about was I came back from a trip and I unpacked literally the night I got back. And they were like, "Oh, you're one of those." And I was like, "Oh yeah, I guess I am now." Like, and so it's interesting now when I'm meeting new people and they're seeing these parts of me and I'm like, "Oh my God, that's I'm not that girl anymore. I'm not that girl with the junkie car anymore. I'm not that girl that waits 5 days to unpack. I'm not that girl with the junkie car. I'm not that girl that doesn't work out. Um, that's just not who I am." And it's so exciting and also really cool to see that that is who I am now. And as I continue to be more embodied in those things and just enjoy and just experience those things, more of those experiences naturally come towards me. And one of the things that Abraham Hicks talks about, is, um, she says that if your manifestation feels out of reach, it probably is. And not in the sense that it can't ever happen or it won't happen, but if it feels like too much of a jump, then it will be, because your manifestations, the things that you experience always feel like the next logical step. And maybe the lottery isn't, but it kind of is, right? Because you went and got a lottery ticket. So the next logical step would be that you won or you didn't win, but like it's the next logical step. And so like when you get that job that you've been dreaming of, that you've been manifesting, yeah, it's like, oh, you're grateful and you're happy it happened, but also it was the next logical step because that's what you wanted and you applied. Or you meet the love of your life. Like you've been wanting the love of your life to come into your life, and you happen to go out to the grocery store, and some guy bumps into you in the baking aisle, and you guys talk about flowers. I don't know, but it's the next logical step. I like to, in all area of my life, level up things to that version of me, and I just continue to add on to those when I can. And I always say it's not about spending more money or anything like that, but you do have to be willing to invest in that future version of you. So me paying to get my car um, cleaned and paying for, I recently bought a shower head that's filtered, so better water on my body. It was an investment into me, and that's an investment that will always pay off. If you ever want to bet on something, you ever want to invest in something, you should bet in yourself because it's always going to compound. And this is the last thing I'll say before ending this video, because I know it's already very long, but I flew first class home to San Diego the other day. I'm flying first class. I've flown first class before. But this was the first time flying first class on like a longer flight. It's coming from San Diego to Michigan, so it's like a 5-hour flight. And I'm just soaking it all in. Like I'm enjoying it. I'm getting the meal. Like she's like, "We're out of chicken," and I don't like lasagna. And literally, I was talking to somebody about this on the trip that I don't like lasagna. So we're in first class, and she's like, "Okay, well, for meals, all we have left is um, beef lasagna or a vegetarian lasagna." I'm like, definitely not vegetarian. And I was like, "Okay, I'll just take the beef. It's fine." Like, she's like, "We're out of chicken, we're out of shrimp, whatever." I was like, "All right, fine. I'll just take the beef lasagna because I'm going to fully experience this first class experience. Like I'm going to completely milk it. I'm having my wine. Yes, I'll have a water. Yes, I'll have a snack. Like I am enjoying all of it." And sure enough, she comes back and she's like, "Actually, I do have another chicken." And I'm like, "Oh my God, thank you." And so I'm eating this amazing chicken meal in first class with tiramisu and my wine, and I'm journaling. And actually, I was planning this video while I'm on the plane. And when we landed, I was almost like, "Oh my God, that was so quick." Like it felt so fast. It went by so fast. And I literally got off the plane so energized. It was 11 o'clock at night, but I was energized. I felt good. And I came home, I unpacked, I prepared for the week, I planned out my content and just my to-do list. And I was like, wow, I see why people will spend the money for first class and why the version of me that is financially free and will probably always fly first class for the most part, if it's especially like a longer flight, would do that because it's a form of self-love, it's a form of self-care, and you leave feeling so refreshed and energized. And I try to do those things now at home when I'm not in first class. I recently posted on my TikTok. Hopefully TikTok's still around when this goes live. But I did a video on my shower routine and how I like introduce light therapy and sound therapy in my shower head and products, but giving myself that self-love right now in the ways that I can afford and the ways that I can make it happen. I open myself up to that energy in other ways. And so that's really my year in 2024. And the core lesson I really think for me is that worthiness comes from within. It doesn't come from approval or your successes. It's something that you decide, really recognize that you are worthy. So I'd love for you guys to share what you've learned this year. And also, if you have anything that you'd like me to talk about further, maybe I could go into some more detail on some of these topics, because I definitely could probably talk about some of those things for 30 minutes if you guys wanted me to. But yeah, let me know. Thank you guys so much for watching, and Happy New Year.